imagine we are approaching the end of our first month as FE Constellations. So we keep it short, sweet, pick a theme for the week and run with it. And my theme this week is the ties that bind. It's come out of your conversations, your sharing on FE Constellations, on the conversations I've had with you, things I've seen and read. And in FE, the ties that bind are strong, aren't they? We work super hard for the modest income that we get, and we're always giving more, going the extra mile. And in fact, I've certainly had teaching awards before that have been called the Extra Mile Award, as though actually working harder than we get paid to do is something to be proud of. And that's really been resonating with the week for me. The idea of loyalty and gratitude, and how these are the ties that bind us to organisation via the relationships we have with students. I've encountered so many people just exhausted, whether it is the first week, the fourth week, or next week till the holidays. And something that you put, Elizabeth, on Twitter, actually, about how teaching is that that boom and bust, that building up to the holidays and then being sick or being so exhausted that you can't move. And I've been exhausted this week, but social events have been as much as work in that. So that's on me. I'm not claiming that. But someone who responded to your tweet said, yeah, it's called leisure sickness. That idea of leisure sickness, that we push ourselves. And that whole notion that I've been hearing as well, and I'm reflecting back now a little more than a week to my time at Oxford with people from ETF, or who were doing work from ETF. And I heard the repeated mantra of, we can't ask too much of people because everybody is exhausted. So how do we ask? How do we ask for change? How do we ask for new things? How do we make change happen? Because that takes energy. When actually the prevailing feel from our professional development organisations is we can't ask too much. It seems to me that the new stuff really finds it hard to get a foothold, and certainly momentum in that space. And momentum is what FE Constellations is all about. Sharing our energies, pooling our potential, as well as know-how and expertise and experience and support, of course, to be able to make the new stuff happen without bankrupting our health. These are the balances. The stuff along the KPI line that we have to deliver, the trying to do something new, and our own health and well-being, avoiding burnout, avoiding leisure sickness. I've been getting better at articulating that, because that's what we're going to need to do. That's what we have to do in order to be able to show the world what we're doing and how it is different and how it's worth investing in. And we don't know all the answers. We do know that it is so important to do the work on ourselves, to do the work. We do know that it is possible to lead change when we're not in charge. And that is the stimulus for this week. It's actually an ETF workbook called Leading Change When You're Not in Charge. Absolutely no expectation that you will work your way through the workbook, but there are some interesting ideas and strategies in there around influence, around pushing new ideas forward that we think you'll find super helpful. And at the same time, I'm sharing with you another artifact, which is hopefully going to encourage you to more balance. And that is a piece that's come out of Harvard Business School about the way in which a piece of research that looked at how women in particular, who are, extremely qualified, highly talented, how it's assumed that they will stay within the organization because of loyalty and because of relationships. And I would argue that actually that's true for everyone in FE, men and women, because it isn't our gender that brings us in. It's our desire to make a difference, to pass on our knowledge, expertise and skills to the next generation of motor vehicle technicians or hairdressers or teachers or whoever it is. So it's emotions and values that engage us in the profession. We don't come into FE to make money. And it is loyalty that keeps us there. Have you ever thought, I really want to leave, but I can't leave the students. I can't leave at this point. I can't leave at this time of year. I can't leave. There's never a good time of year to leave. We always want to be in there at the start. We want to see it through to the end, and then we're just exhausted. So that's the trap. The ties that bind, that's the trap. And organizations often play on this. And some of you will have heard this story before from my experience that when I was on the point of leaving an organization, I'd done something, well, I didn't do anything bad, really. I got called into the principal's office, and the final straw, I felt the tide had turned against me, but I couldn't put my finger on why. I knew that I hadn't done anything bad or anything wrong, particularly not that we shouldn't be able to do wrong, things wrong, make mistakes. We should be able to make mistakes. Where there's trust, we can make mistakes. And I was called into the office, and the conversation began with, "But Louise, I thought you were loyal." And in trying to establish relationships with people outside of the organization, that had been perceived as disloyalty to the organization, as though I somehow was trying to make my own independent career on the back of the organization. Whereas in fact, what I was trying to do was take the amazing work of that organization out into the world. And right now as well, I hear soundings coming back to me that potentially organizations, some organizations or some individuals within organizations are a bit wary of FE constellations, because suddenly this is consultancy, as though Joss and I have sold out, as though our values aren't the same, as though we didn't earn a living before, a modest living, and we're earning a modest living again. So those assumptions that somehow, if you are outside, if you are trying to do something different and build relationships outside, if you are wanting to leave, that's seen as somehow disloyalty to the organization, disloyalty to FE, to the sector, and the ties that bind are around the students, are around the relationships. We've got to get over this. This is not healthy behavior. It's, it's like being in a bad relationship, isn't it? And one of the ways in which we can try and counter that, I think, is through the work that we do with each other, particularly around empathy. And this was a great conversation that I had with you, Stacey, on Tuesday night at Navigating Sticky Spaces. Why isn't empathy taught as part of professional development? There might be some, tip the hat to it, but like really and truly, empathy for ourselves, empathy for colleagues, empathy for students is the thing that quite often comes naturally, and we write ourselves out of the agenda. So these are my thoughts, the thoughts of a tired brain, I have to say, but maybe some food for thought for you in here and in the 2 artifacts that I will be presenting to you when this live stream is available to watch back. You will find the links in there. And a final thought, I guess, I was thinking about trying to do new things, and how the way in which we would normally keep the momentum going would be by having a project plan and checking in points. And we would go to our managers and they would say, have you done this? Where are you at? Do you need any help? And actually, that all gets mixed up in the stuff that we do for the bottom line. And it's really difficult, certainly in my experience, unless I had particularly poor managers, it was really difficult to get anyone to even hear about the new stuff, to remember it was happening, to even ask about it, because it's not part of, it's moving towards the third horizon, but it's not strictly part of the KPIs. So that's how that work ends up being extra. Do the day job in 50 hours or whatever, and then you might be able to squeeze out a little bit of energy to get that done. And that's why we need FE constellations, I think. Certainly why we need Potentia communities. So I will leave you that to chew on. Have a fabulous weekend. Hoping the weather's going to pick up a little bit, certainly in the north of England. And I will be catching up with you very soon.